Have you ever wondered what happens when we are on the brink of death? Is there something beyond this world, a greater presence guiding us when all seems lost? What if I told you that I experienced something extraordinary, something that completely changed my view on life and death? Imagine feeling the desperation of drowning, losing control, and in the next instant, being enveloped by an inexplicable peace. What would you do if, in the darkest moment, a familiar voice told you that it was not yet your time? This is my story. A journey of fear, faith, and transformation. An experience that took me beyond the veil of reality and brought me back with a renewed purpose. Stay with me until the end and discover what really happens when we cross the boundary between life and eternity. I promise this story will change your perspective on the world. If you're ready for an exciting and inspiring journey, click the subscribe button and turn on the bell to not miss any videos. And don't forget to leave a like if you enjoy stories that touch the heart. Now, let's dive into my story. I am Emily Johnson, and today I want to share with you a story that transformed my life forever. I am a 40-year-old woman, living in a small, coastal town in the United States, surrounded by a welcoming community and stunning natural landscapes. My morning routine is almost sacred. I wake up early, prepare a cup of strong coffee, and sit on the porch to watch the sunrise. The view is simply enchanting. The sky is tinged with golden and orange hues, and the sound of waves gently breaking on the rocks brings me a deep sense of peace. Watching the fishermen start their day and feeling the salty breeze on my face reminds me of how simple and beautiful life can be. Besides my passion for nature, I have always been a lover of reading. I have a small library at home, filled with books on philosophy, spirituality, and inspiring stories. My garden is also a personal refuge, where I grow colorful flowers and aromatic herbs that scent the air in the evening. I love spending time with my family and friends, sharing laughter and unforgettable moments. On a sunny summer afternoon, I decided to go out with my friends for a boat ride. The day was perfect. The blue sea reflected the vastness of the cloudless sky, and a gentle breeze made the heat more bearable. The sun shone intensely, casting golden reflections on the gentle waves, creating a sparkling spectacle on the water's surface. The sound of the boat's motor cut through the serene silence of the ocean, mixing with the song of seagulls flying overhead. The salty smell of the sea filled the air, awakening memories of past summers and bringing a nostalgic sense of peace and belonging. The feeling of freedom as we glided over the water was invigorating, and my heart filled with gratitude for being surrounded by such special people. As we sailed, we found a secluded cove and decided to anchor there for a swim. The water was incredibly clear, allowing us to see the colorful fish swimming below us, their scales reflecting the sunlight like tiny fragments of rainbows. Small schools of fish moved in synchrony, creating hypnotic patterns that seemed choreographed by nature itself. The salty smell of the sea was intense and familiar, bringing back memories of past summers and happy moments. The gentle waves rocked the boat rhythmically, almost like a lullaby, and I felt completely connected to that moment. I entered the water with a graceful dive, immediately feeling the ocean's coolness enveloping my body. The contrast between the sun's warmth and the water's freshness was invigorating, as if each drop washed away not only my skin, but also any trace of worry. For a few minutes, I floated, admiring the infinite blue above me. The clouds moved slowly across the sky, shaping into curious forms, as if telling silent stories to those who knew how to interpret them. The distant sound of seagulls and the rustling of waves against the sand created a natural and relaxing soundtrack, making that moment even more special. My friends and I laughed and chatted, enjoying the moment without hurry. Sarah, my longtime friend, shared funny stories about her last vacation, gesturing animatedly as she made us laugh. Michael, the adventurer of the group, suggested we explore a nearby small island, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Each laugh echoed over the water, carried by the wind, blending with the soft sound of waves breaking on the nearby rocks. Time seemed to slow down, allowing us to appreciate every second of that perfect day. The sun began to descend slightly on the horizon, tinting the sky with golden and orange hues, and I felt that those moments would forever be etched in my memory. Everything seemed perfect, as if we were living inside a painting created by nature itself, where every detail was meticulously drawn to create a scene of pure harmony and happiness. But suddenly, everything changed. Without warning, an unexpected current pulled me away from the boat. At first, I tried to swim against the force of the water, but it was like fighting an invisible giant. Each stroke seemed to take me further into the ocean. The distance between me and my friends increased, frighteningly fast. Desperation began to set in. The noise of the waves crashing against my body and the wind whistling in my ears made everything even more terrifying. My heart was beating so hard it seemed to echo inside me, and my breath became irregular, choked by growing fear. "Emily, hold. On tight! We're coming to get you!" Sarah shouted, her voice filled with fear. Michael, without hesitation, started the boat's motor and tried to approach, but the current was too strong. I saw the anguish on their faces, their wide eyes reflecting the uncertainty of the moment. Each second felt like an eternity. My body was already feeling the effects of exhaustion, my muscles trembling as I struggled in the water. Fatigue hit me like a crushing wave. My energy began to fade. Each movement became more difficult, as if I were trapped in an invisible whirlpool. The salt stung my eyes and my vision began to darken. The sea, once a refuge of tranquility, now became an uncontrollable, relentless force. The sound of my friends' voices grew more distant until only the noise of my own racing heart remained. A strange sensation took over me. It was no longer fear, but surrender. Surrender to whatever was to come. And then, everything went silent. I saw a bright light, intense but not blinding. A soft, warm embrace enveloped my body, as if I were being hugged by something much greater than myself. The turbulent waters disappeared, and suddenly I felt as if I were floating in a weightless space, without pain, without fear. It was as if my soul had been freed from the chains of the physical world. By my side, a familiar presence appeared. It was my grandfather, who had passed away when I was just a child. His face bore a serene smile, and his eyes conveyed an inexplicable peace. He looked exactly as I remembered, wearing his favorite blue shirt, and with that gentle gleam in his eyes that always made me feel safe. "Emily, it's not your time yet," he said, his voice filled with affection. "You have a special purpose and need to return to fulfill your mission." His presence dispelled all the fear I felt. He showed me images of happy moments we shared, sunny days in the garden of his house, the stories he told before I went to sleep, the advice he gave me over the years. I could feel his hand holding mine, bringing indescribable comfort. "You are strong, Emily. Never forget that," he continued. "Your story is not over yet." But there was something even greater there. I felt an indescribable energy, something far beyond my grandfather's presence. It was a sensation of absolute love, something that human words cannot explain. It was as if God was there, holding my soul with infinite tenderness. I felt a divine warmth course through my entire being, and a deep understanding took hold of me. I remembered the words of Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. In that moment, I understood that my life had a much greater meaning than I imagined. I was there for a reason. I had a mission to fulfill. And at that moment, I knew I had to return. But what should I do? I asked, still astonished by what I was experiencing. My voice sounded different, as if echoing in an endless space. I felt my body, and at the same time, seemed to float in an ocean of light and peace. You must share your story, my grandfather replied, with a look full of tenderness and conviction. Show the world that there is always hope, even in the darkest moments. God has a plan for you. Now go. Suddenly, I felt a strong impact. It was as if I were being pulled back by an invisible force, as if my body were being sucked back into reality. The light began to dissipate, and an intense cold swept over my skin. The absolute silence was replaced by the distant sound of voices and waves crashing. A moment later, I felt the roughness of the sand beneath me, cold and damp. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking against the brightness of the sun. I had been rescued. The first thing I saw was the blue sky, as beautiful and infinite as before, but now filled with new meaning. Each cloud seemed to have a story. Each gust of wind brought a reminder that I was alive. The sensation of sand beneath my body was real, concrete, a stark contrast to the ethereal softness of the other side. My lungs burned with the sudden intake of air, but this discomfort was a sign that I was there, back again. Sarah held my hand tightly, her tears mixed with sweat and sea salt. Emily, you gave us such a scare, she said, her voice choked with relief and fear that hadn't yet dissipated. Her fingers trembled slightly, and I knew she had suffered as much as I had in that moment. Michael, exhausted but relieved, sat beside me, breathing heavily. His face was covered in salt water and sand, his eyes reflecting a mix of shock and gratitude. You're a fighter, Emily. Never doubt that, he said, gently patting my shoulder, as if reaffirming something he had always known. The lifeguards around me checked my vital signs, talking among themselves about how it was a miracle I had survived. I could barely respond. My mind was still caught up in the experience I had just lived through. How could I explain to them that I had seen my grandfather? How could I describe the indescribable peace I had felt? As real as that moment was, I knew that part of me still belonged to that place of light and love. Since then, my life has changed completely. I began to see every moment as a precious gift, an opportunity to make a difference in the world. I could no longer ignore the calling I felt in that moment between life and death. I understood that our journey has a greater purpose, something beyond what our eyes can see. I dedicated my life to spreading hope and inspiration, to reminding people that they are not alone, that there is something greater guiding us. I began to write about my experience, to share my story with anyone willing to listen. The responses I received were overwhelming. People who had lost faith found comfort in my words. Others who were on the brink of giving up on life found reasons to continue. Each message, each thank you, reinforced what my grandfather had told me. My story was not just mine, but for all who needed a reminder that light always triumphs over darkness, And now, I share my story with you so that you never forget. There is always light, even in the deepest darkness, and you, like me, have a purpose. Your story is still being written. If this story touched your heart, don't let it end here. Like this video so that more people can find it and be inspired. Share it with friends, family, or someone who might need this message of hope. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, take this moment to join us. Here, we create a space of welcome and transformation, where every story has the power to light paths and strengthen souls. Your voice is important too. Leave a comment telling us which part moved you the most and how you face challenges in your life. Have you gone through an experience that changed your perspective? I'd love to know. Remember, you are never alone. Together, we can spread more faith, love, and purpose to the world. See you in the next video. May light and peace always be with you.